Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government's statements and actions?
Yes, and especially the steps that we are taking to restore confidence in New Zealand's energy industry. New Zealand needs a rational energy policy, but instead previous governments spent years undermining private sector investment and creating the conditions for future shortages and pricing spikes. Now Kiwis are experiencing the consequences. This morning, Simeon Brown called on the gentailers to make clear that they must be competitive in the energy market. We're taking action to restore confidence in the energy sector and to enable investment. That means ending the ban on oil and gas. It means cancelling Lake Onslow. It means bringing in fast track to enable more investment, including renewables. And of course, it's all part of our plan to rebuild the economy and to make sure we have energy security.
Is he aware that the #1 excuse invoked by the perpetrators of harassment in the workplace, be it racism, sexism or otherwise, is to excuse that behaviour as friendly banter? And if so, is that the type of workplace culture he is trying to create?
Well, I'll just say it's a bit rich coming from that member who this morning, just a few hours ago, was on Radio New Zealand exhorting the fact that everybody needs to watch their rhetoric, a message that I have played back over a number of months, and yet he has a former minister and a senior MP condoning putting up a video saying that I'm killing children. I don't think that's appropriate.
Is his Minister of Foreign Affairs providing a run-in commentary on the gender of international athletes consistent with the standard of behaviour that he expects of his ministers?
Point of order. Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston.
Mr Speaker, that claim and that question requires it to be authenticated. I have the post. It says nothing of the sort, and I expect him to get up now and apologise.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. That doesn't mean the Prime Minister shouldn't then have to address the question.
Well, look, I'm not going to speak for the Prime Minister. I can assume that when the Prime Minister said that, he was imagining that since it had been denied, there wasn't a great deal of public interest in continuing. But I will ask the Prime Minister if he would like to respond.
Look, the Minister has denied it, but what I'd say is that Minister is doing an exceptionally good job as a Foreign Minister for New Zealand, and we should be incredibly proud of him because he is lifting the intensity and the urgency of our relationships across the Indo-Pacific like no one's done before.
Does his Minister for Children's refusal to answer questions in the House last week in preference to wearing an ACT Party badge reflect the standard of behaviour he expects of his ministers?
I fully support our Minister of Children, Oranga Tamariki. She's doing a fantastic job. What I'd say to the member is, what a petty line of questions that we're seeing today. This is a country where our economy is in real trouble. This is a country where we cannot deliver health and education services as well as we need to, and we have rising levels of crime, and this is the line of questioning from the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you.
There are not two standards for ministers in this House. Ministers come under significant pressure, and the Minister was under significant pressure last week, and we respected the ruling that you made as the Speaker. That does not ever excuse ministers of the Crown from being held to the same standard as every other Minister of the Crown. Every Minister of the Crown reports to the Prime Minister. Their conduct is a matter for the Prime Minister to answer for. The question that I asked is completely within order. It does not in any way question the ruling that you made as the Speaker. It questions why a minister in his government prioritised promoting her political party over discharging her duties as a minister.
Ask the question one more time.
Did his Minister for Children's refusal to answer questions in the House last week in preference to wearing an ACT Party badge reflect the standard of behaviour that he expects from his ministers?
No, the Speaker has addressed that question, I think, very well. There was challenges last week. He has reset the tone of this House, and we deal with that going forward.
The Honourable David Seymour.
Mr Prime Minister, what, in the view of this government, are the priorities of the New Zealand people? What do they need from the government and the Parliament right now?
Well, I thank the member for their question. What they want is a government that's going to rebuild the economy, restore law and order, and deliver better health and education. Those are the big issues that outside of this place New Zealanders are concerned about.
Mr Speaker, if that is indeed the priorities of this government, why are his ministers refusing to answer questions in the House prioritising wearing party badges instead, making racial taunts to members on the opposite side of the House, refusing to use te reo Māori in their correspondence, promoting things like Matariki, refusing to providing a commentary on the gender of international athletes, and of course attacking the courts, which is something we haven't got to yet.
What I observe is I see a hard-working cabinet and a set of ministers that are actually doing the business for New Zealand. I look at our economic ministers who are actually reducing inflation, lowering the costs of living and making sure we've got a growth plan going forward. I look at our law and order ministers and I see them focused on lowering crime. I look at our education minister who did more in 6 hours and 6 days than that member did as education minister for 6 years. I look at what our health minister is doing to make sure that we improve our health outcomes for Māori, non-Māori and all New Zealanders. That's what I see.